I've been pretty hesitant to talk about Boruto 2 Blue Vortex or the Boruto time skip because, to be very honest, after chapter 1 came out, even though it was a well put together chapter and ended on a fairly decent cliffhanger, I just really was not that interested in it at the time. And the same was true for chapter 2, although it caught my eye just a little bit, but chapter 3 has me invested enough now. I think the series is finally worth covering and I have something to look forward to each month from this manga. Ever since Boruto started, everyone has been looking forward to this time skip. Even the people who claim to hate Boruto with all their hearts were waiting for this time skip to happen. It's the literal first thing in the manga, shrouded in mystery, and remained interesting for the entire run of Boruto Part 1. Whether or not the time skip will live up to the hype we've set for it in the long run will be decided when that time comes, but at least for right now, I think it's a good time to start reading if you haven't already. I have both positive and negative things to say, and obviously that'll all be laid out here. Before we begin, I'd like to ask if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, as YouTube shows me more than 70% of the people watching my videos aren't subscribing. Perhaps the most exciting thing so far is that Boruto has a brand new jutsu and it's really overpowered. The best way to describe it would be to start with the way Boruto actually applied it and what it was used for. Boruto threw a strike at Code, which Code did react to and catch, but Boruto claimed that his jutsu was already halfway complete at the time Code caught his hand, or to be more specific, Boruto said he was halfway to ending Code's life, but it's one and the same since he's doing it with this jutsu. You'll understand in a minute. After this, Code starts charging at Boruto, and from what we can tell, one of two things are happening. Either Boruto's new jutsu is causing Code to miss all of his strikes, and it makes it appear as if Boruto is moving, or Boruto is moving extremely fast and Code can't keep track of him at all. At least in Code's opinion, he thinks Boruto is doing some high level of movement because he says that Boruto's moves go beyond just simple dodging. Couple that with the fact that right after this, Boruto just appears to blitz behind Code, and it seems pretty likely Boruto is just moving really fast. Boruto finally lands his jutsu on Code in full and it sends him flying. Ada doesn't seem too impressed with the jutsu and wonders how it's different from a basic Rasengan, but Damon seems to have a bit more insight and says that it's Boruto who's making the ground rumble, or rather the entire earth, since Boruto's attack makes use of planetary spin and he calls it nifty. Boruto is surprised that Code can even stand after being hit with the jutsu, and we get a POV shot of Code who can barely see straight and then starts to collapse, wondering what all the spinning he's seeing is. Boruto then goes on to further explain the jutsu, saying that Code can think of it as a biting counterattack from the planet he tried to destroy. It's a Rasengan that incorporates a planet's chakra, its rotation. The power rushing through Code's body won't ever dissipate, just like how a planet won't stop spinning. Boruto continues to say the damage will continue semi-permanently because Code will pass away before the planet stops spinning. Code tries to stand again but fails, and Boruto lets us know that he can release this jutsu and will do so if Code tells him what he wants. Now, for a bit more explanation, just from what I can gather from the panels that's not explicitly said, Boruto can land this attack on you so long as you are in contact with him. It doesn't look like he has to land a direct strike because of what he says to Code. After Code simply grabs his arm, he says he's already halfway there. As for the jutsu description, it seems like Boruto makes her Rasengan and then incorporates the earth's chakra into it as a way to keep the jutsu going without his need to do it at all times. So as long as Boruto hits you with the jutsu and earth is still spinning, he doesn't have to do anything else and can simply wait for the jutsu to do its job. Another rather interesting thing about this jutsu is that Boruto claims the power is running inside of Code, meaning it's likely attacking him internally. This gives Boruto a form of durability negation, at least against a lot of people within the world of Naruto. Because as Kakashi says in part 1, there's no way to train and strengthen your insides, which is what makes the gentle fist so strong of a taijutsu technique, that all you need is a mere scrape to damage your target. This would be quite fitting narratively for Boruto to have a jutsu like this, since it incorporates both sides of his family heritage in it. Naruto's side for the Rasengan and Hinata's for the internal damage. I also want to add that this jutsu may be immune to the absorption by karma, since it's inside of your actual body and not physically manifested like the other jutsu we see karma absorb. To address the elephant in the room as far as Boruto only being planetary, I think the application of Earth's chakra is being fairly misunderstood here as to why Boruto puts it into the jutsu. From what I can tell, it's not to power the jutsu up, but the Earth's chakra is incorporated to make sure the jutsu doesn't stop attacking the opponent constantly. As he says, the Rasengan incorporates Earth's chakra, not that it's made of Earth's chakra. Lastly, even if you were to say Boruto only incorporated the chakra and how the Earth spins into the jutsu, the amount of force the Earth generates as it spins is not even planetary, so it wouldn't get him that high anyway. I think it's a bit disingenuous to say Boruto or Naruto characters at this point are just now getting to planetary levels of power, but that's just my take on it. If you have some other reason why they aren't planetary, that's whatever, but this most certainly is not a reason to say that they aren't. As for if Boruto is cool now, I'll give my take on the character first, aside from that jutsu, and then a major flaw I see within the series itself to answer this question. But when it comes to Boruto himself, I'd say he's pretty cool. To say that he's had a massive change in attitude from his part 1 self would be the understatement of the century. Even when Boruto lost everything and was walking away at the end of chapter 80, he had a very cheery expression and you could tell his outlook on life was mostly positive. But showing up in chapter 1, stripped of his name and Sasuke nowhere to be seen, Boruto seems to be all about business at this point. He's not engaging in small talk with Sarada, just wanting to hurry up and deal with Code and or find Ten Tails. To be fair, Boruto could be on somewhat of a clock as Sasuke's fate at this point essentially hangs in the balance and he may be trying to save him. A popular theory going around right now is that one of Code's claw grimes actually turned Sasuke into a mini tree the same way it did to Bug and some of the other random leaf villages. And it's possible Boruto thinks the way to save Sasuke is to get rid of the Ten Tails, or aside from Boruto thinking it, that just may be the truth of the matter. It'd be a solid motivation for why Boruto is so down to business and has this gloomy look on his face most of the time, as since he's gotten back in all 3 chapters, we haven't seen him smile once, not even on the cover images he has. And looking back on it, he's not smiling in the flash forward we get during part 1 either. So Sasuke might have already passed away during the time skip. Whatever the case may be, this threat seems to be of more importance to Boruto than saving his dad, although that doesn't have to be a super pressing issue since Naruto won't pass away inside of the timeless dimension, he's just sitting there. I think it's also really nice that Kishimoto is able to make Boruto very serious and threatening without making him seem very edgy. As much as I do like Sasuke, there were definitely some times when he came off more edgy than emotional, and to see that change is a great thing in my eyes because I like seeing Kishimoto has improved as a writer. Boruto's best trait by far though is his strength and efficiency. Whether it's when he's cutting down the claw grimes or embarrassing Code, it doesn't feel like there's any wasted movement in what he's doing, sort of like Baryon mode or Ultra Instinct. Obviously not to such a degree, but you get what I'm leaning at when I say that. And I'm sure you can tell from what I've been saying, a lot of Boruto's character is sort of shrouded in mystery, and his strength is the one thing that's no longer up for debate or being put into question, as all of the things he's done so far are done in base form, without his karma activated or without the assistance of Momoshiki. Keep in mind, Code is stronger than Jigen, who beat up both full power Naruto and Sasuke at the same time, and Boruto is embarrassing that guy in his base form. So yeah, I think Boruto the character is cool now, but for the manga as a whole, I think there's one thing holding it back. The one thing I think is holding back Boruto, and the only one major criticism that I have of Boruto, which I should mention, it's not like it's exclusive to Boruto's time skip manga either. It's an ongoing issue that we've had since part 1. That being Code's complete inability to be a compelling villain, or scratch compelling, Code's inability to be a good villain at all. By no stretch of the imagination is Code making it in anyone's top 10 villain list at all. And that's reasonable. Kishimoto put together a villain that is still alive merely by resources alone, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit later. Code has no aura, no meaningful wins, no interesting philosophies or ideologies. He's not super intelligent, and he doesn't even have a cool ability or transformation. So with this formula, you get a villain that doesn't even succeed on the most basic of shonen levels. So what does Code have? He only has his resources and knowledge. Without them, he never would have made it this far. And on some level, you can say that's fair. After all, everyone survives due to resources and knowledge. Strength can be considered a resource in a lot of cases, and so can knowledge. But that's not exactly what I mean. Delta, Kashin Koji, Ishiki, Code, Amato, and Boro all made up the Kara Inners, and they obviously held the most intel in the group. That's only natural. Delta got dealt with by Amato, putting her to sleep. Kashin Koji got put out of the story by Ishiki. Ishiki got put out of the story by Kawaki. Boro got ended by Momoshiki, and Amato defected to Konoha. So that left Code as the last member of Kara, and due to this, Code had lots of burdens to take on from a story perspective, and most of them are things that could be considered written in for him only as the last remaining member of Kara. But we'll be generous here and take the little hints that Code actually was the strongest inner member and Ishiki's right hand man, like him being sent to guard the Ten Tails and his statement to Delta claiming he was stronger than her. So Code, Ishiki's right hand man, gets a visit from Ishiki's soul, and Ishiki essentially gives him a tutorial on how to become an Otsutsuki along with the names of the people who took his life. So Code's entire motivation is that he wants to beat the people who beat Ishiki because he worshipped him. I promise you, rereading this, I realized Code was doomed from the very beginning. Avenging your master is a protagonist's motivation, not one for an antagonist. Now I know this isn't exactly what this is, but it's very similar. Think of other times someone wants to avenge their master or someone they look up to. Kabuto lost Orochimaru and just started being him. It turned into this whole plot line where Kabuto essentially lost his identity. That's interesting, it's a great place to take it, but being fair, identity issues is more Naruto's thing, not a thing in the Boruto series, and besides, Kishimoto had already done that before. But the point is, it's never about avenging with Kabuto. He lost his master and had to come up with a different way. He didn't seek out Sasuke for revenge, he merely wanted him for his Uchiha body, similar to Orochimaru. Talking about Code's losses is also important because he just has so many. He has so many. Just listen up. Code shows up to get Ada since she knows everything and says, well, if she doesn't listen to me, I'll just end her right here. And then, rather than that happening, he gets snared in her jutsu. That's L number 1. Code then does get one win, and that's against a base Kid Kawaki, so it's not really meaningful. Like I said, he gets no meaningful W's. Code goes up against Boruto, and Boruto is losing. Then he starts matching him while not even going all out. Then Momoshiki comes out and embarrasses Code badly, so another L. Kawaki gets stronger and beats up Code, so Damon has to save him. Another L. Code comes in to torture Amato, and the new Delta comes out and kicks him so hard he spits up blood and brings out Ada to save him. Another L. Code gets Amato to remove his limiters and immediately has to fight Damon. Another L. Code leaves for 3 years and comes back with a scar, so he lost his left eye. Another L. Then, most recently, Code lost to Boruto's new jutsu, so another L. And this is all within the span of around 26 chapters. Granted, Boruto does have 40-page chapters, but still. I will say a potential W for Code is Sasuke's ambiguous fate as of now. Sasuke has not been mentioned in the last 3 chapters, or at least not presently mentioned, so it's possible that Code may have gotten some of his revenge by taking out Sasuke sometime in the past, and I'll elaborate more on this in a bit. But for now, how does a villain lose this much and we expect him to be threatening in any way? I think this is all on purpose, and once Code is out of his resources, he can be safely removed from the story. And let me elaborate on what I mean by that. Because of his resources, Code is the only one who could bring Ada and Damon into the story. And due to Ada's motivations, she decides to team up with Code, so Code gains some fairly powerful allies there. After that, Code survives against Kawaki because of Damon. He survives against Delta and Shikamaru because of Ada. He survives against Damon because of Bug, and he survives against Boruto because of his claw grimes. But now he's lost Ada, Damon, and Bug, and he's allegedly drained 10 tails of his chakra. So he now has no real way of getting stronger, since he can't beat Boruto or Kawaki to get a God Tree fruit. It's also hinted at by Boruto that Code may eventually lose control over his claw grimes as well. So once Code has lost this final asset, he can finally be gone from the story, and I think that's coming really soon. Any other narrative importance Code may have had is now voided to him. He can't get revenge on Naruto, and without a power-up, he has no hope of taking on the other people he wants to take down. And like I said, he's fresh out of ways to power up. The last thing Code could hope to get at this point is becoming the 10 Tails Jinchuriki with the small amount of claw grimes he has left. I will say that since Kishimoto in the past has written pretty great villains, I think what he's doing with Code is very much so on purpose. I don't think it's a coincidence that every time Code has an upper hand, his enemies become just that much stronger. Code has an upper hand on Kawaki, enter Momoshiki. He gets the upper hand again, bring out Damon. He gets it again, 3-year time skip, and now Boruto is stronger. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on, even a blind man could see it. My interests currently lie in whether or not Kishimoto takes it to a place where Code is even more dangerous in the future, or stops it here and Code will live and die a failure. But with either of those, I'm not going to lie, I'm failing to see how they could be narratively satisfying, at least for Code himself, since for the most part narratively, Code just seems to be in the way of everyone else and more like a pain than a genuine threat. Even now, Boruto is talking about the danger of 10 Tails and says ending Code's life is just easy. We could get a situation where Code is better understood towards the end of his run of the manga, as obviously Boruto is still ongoing and Code isn't finished yet. But for now, I think he just holds back the series from being its best. So as for Boruto the character, yeah, I think he's cool now, but the series, it could be better.